My family history begins on my dad's side. My great-great-grandma Angela Winter married my great-great-grandpa Jacob Marklinger and came to Estevan in May 1907 from Romania. In 1911, there was 15,000 Romanian Canadians. Before World War I, Romanians moved to Canada in several periods. After World War II, Romania was in a difficult period in their history and many of them left to come to Canada. In 1915, Angela and Jacob moved to the northwestern part of Saskatchewan. They had 15 children, one who is my great-grandma Nymphia Marklinger, who is also known as Minnie. Angela passed away in 1947 and Jacob passed away in 1950. My great-grandpa was Makenna My. He was born in Millbank, South Dakota on October 11, 1893. He came to Canada when he was a young boy in 1902. In 1916, Makenna married Minnie Marklinger. They invested their money into buying a farm and a home, but this was during the tough times, which was the Dirty 30s. The Dirty 30s was a period of drought and severe dust storms that damaged the agriculture of the U.S. and Canadian prairies during the 1930s. This was also the Great Depression, which started in the States but quickly reached Canada. It affected farming because of the collapse of wheat prices. The Depression ended in 1939 as World War II began. Makenna and Minnie had 15 children, one which was my grandpa Lawrence Mack. Minnie died on June 5, 1955, and Makenna moved into a house in Estevan in 1957. Makenna died on November 2, 1972. On my dad's mom's side, my great-great-grandma and grandpa was Christian and Mary Ann McGilkey. They were both born in 1863. Christian died in 1939 and Mary Ann died in 1955, leaving their son Charlie McGilkey. My great-grandpa Charlie immigrated to Canada from Russia on October 6, 1906. The first Russians in Canada were fur traders. Mostly early immigrants to Canada from Russia arrived in groups. The Russian immigrants changed Canada so quickly that the British lost some control, but they also changed Canada in a positive way, bringing new foods and new cultural ways. In 1926, Charlie moved to Macon, then in 1933 he moved to Outram, then he finally settled in Estevan. He married Rose Mickle on November 25, 1935. They had 7 children, one of them being my grandma, Mary McGilkey. My grandpa Lawrence married my grandma Rose in 1962. They are the parents of my father, Darrell Mack. They lived in Estevan their whole lives. Mary passed away on October 6, 1996, and Lawrence is still currently living in Estevan with his common-law Thelman Short. On my mom's dad's side of the family, my great-great-great-grandparents were Alex and Annie Yim. They immigrated to the States from the Ukraine. The first major immigration from Ukraine happened between 1891 and 1914, bringing 170,000 immigrants. Most of the first immigrants were identified as Poles, Russians, or Austrians, but the majority of the immigrants settled in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, or Alberta. Their son, who was also my great-great-grandpa, was named Jesse Gim. Jesse was from Morgan, Minnesota, and he married Ruth. Ruth was from Iowa. They later moved to Beanface, Saskatchewan, and they had 6 children, one of them being Stuart Gim. My great-grandpa Stewie was born on October 31, 1922 in Beanface, Saskatchewan. He was born and raised in Beanface, Saskatchewan. He then married Katie Simituk in 1943. Katie was born on January 23, 1926. Stewie later joined the Army and went to Berryfield, Ontario for a year. During that time, a train ran over his toes and he was in the hospital for 13 weeks. They later had 4 children, one of them being my grandpa Warren Gim, who was born on July 26, 1947. On my mom's side of the family, my great-great-grandma and grandpa were Elizabeth and Samuel Davies. They had my great-grandpa George Davies, and he was born in Lancaster, England. My other great-great-grandparents, Katie and Matis Yakimovich, had my great-grandma Olga Yakimovich, who was born in Manitoba. After George and Olga got married, he joined World War II, but I don't know much about it because he didn't like to talk about it. The Second World War lasted from 1935 to 1945. It involved the majority of the world's nations. It was the most widespread war in history and involved over more than 100 million people from 30 countries. World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history. Olga and George had 3 daughters, one of them being my grandma Sharon, who was born and raised in Beanfate, Saskatchewan on September 4th, 1946. Warren and Sharon got married on May 14th, 1966, and they still currently live in Estevan, Saskatchewan. My father Daryl was born on September 25th, 1965 in Estevan, Saskatchewan. My mother Shelley was born on November 5th, 1966 in Regina, Saskatchewan. They lived and got married in Estevan, Saskatchewan on April 25th, 1986. My oldest sister Brittany was born on November 10th, 1989 in Estevan, Saskatchewan. My other sister Megan was born on July 27th, 1993 in Estevan, Saskatchewan. The start of my Canadian history began on October 6th, 1999 when I was born at the St. Joseph's Hospital in Estevan, Saskatchewan. I have lived in Estevan my whole life. I would like to thank all my ancestors because without them I wouldn't be where I am today. And one day I can't wait to share the stories of my Canadian history with my children and my grandchildren.